Hey everyone, so I just to make a little, let me just that right there. That's why I just make a little video about my top 20 worst movie sequels I have seen. Now, it's not really going to be in any specific order, but it kind of is. If you agree or disagree, that's okay, but this is just my personal opinions on what I've seen. Okay? Okay, let's get started. But first, I gotta say, my I have a few dishonorable mentions I like to share, okay? First one we have is Free Willy 3 The Rescue. Now, the first two Free Willys I thought were pretty good. I kind of did enjoy the first one, and I did in a way enjoy the second one too. But the third one, it just, I don't know what, it just felt very boring. Like, I remember watching the third one. I still have the DVD box set of all three, but like the first two I got through pretty quickly. Third one, it was hard for me to even get through because I thought it was so boring. I know for the, it just like, I don't know what it was. I just couldn't get, I couldn't get invested as I could the first two, you know? And not only that, even the one character, like, I don't know what it was. It just felt like, even the new, one thing I never got was why was there like, most of the characters from the first two films are like completely absent in this one. Like Jesse, I think that's his name, the kid. His adoptive parents aren't in this. His younger brother's not in this. It's like, where were they? You know, it didn't offer any really explanation. The only one that was in it from the first two, besides Jesse, was Randolph. I think that was his name. New kid they tried to introduce, he just was very bland and uninteresting. But yeah, it was definitely the weaker of the three. But that's besides the point. Next one we have Shrek the Third. Now, first Shrek was like an instant classic to everyone, pretty much. Shrek 2, I thought, was equally as good, if not maybe better than the first. But Shrek 3 was just. It just wasn't funny or clever as the first two, you know? I thought the humor didn't land at all. All the jokes almost went flat. It was very juvenile. Just the humor was just completely juvenile. The story I don't even think was that good, and it was boring too. I remember, and the one they made after Shrek Forever After, that wasn't really that great either. But I did think it was slightly better than the third one. I mean, the story wasn't that good there either, but I thought it did at least end the series on a high note in a way. So next we have Cheaper by the Dozen 2. Now, first Cheaper by the Dozen, I thought was pretty. I thought it was okay. Steve Martin. I haven't seen the old one, but Steve Martin. That one I thought was pretty good. You know, I thought it was kind of funny. But Cheaper by a Dozen 2, I really. It just. I don't know what it was. I just didn't like it really. I thought the humor this time just didn't land at all. You know. I don't know what I have to say. I just thought the story wasn't. Where they go to summer camp or something like that, but it just wasn't really as good. It just wasn't. It just didn't work for me at all. But okay, next one we have is Rugrats Go Wild. Now, first the Rugrats movie I thought was pretty good. Second one, Rugrats in Paris, I thought was actually kind of better than the first one. But this one, Rugrats Go Wild, I didn't think it was really funny. I didn't think it was very. Even the first two films I thought were kind of, in a way, clever, kind of. You know? This one, like, at least the first two had, like, a few adult things in them, which I thought was kind of funny and, good. But this one was, like, I understand they're made for young kids, but one was like really, really kiddish. I really didn't find any bits of it memorable. There was maybe a couple, but it wasn't. It was. Oh yeah, it just was definitely a huge step down from the first two. And it's a shame that came at the end of the Rugrats series, because A little quick thing. I didn't think at the end of Rugrats, even up till 2001 or 2, I still thought when I was younger, I still thought the series was alright. It did kind of dip a little bit in quality, but I didn't think it was as bad as a lot of other people said. Until it hit like 2003 or 4 is when this movie came out, yeah, 2003. That's when I could tell it. I just really was lost interest in it by then. And then they made All Grown Up, which was all right, I guess. But yeah, this one was just. It was very juvenile, very kiddish, and even a lot of the storylines they introduced didn't really go anywhere. Which I thought, like they introduced this one storyline. I'll let you see it, but I thought they were gonna end it a certain way. It didn't even go anywhere. I was like, really? That's it? Okay. Go on to the list now. Here's my top 20, or there's a few ties, but worst movie sequels I've seen. Number 20, we have X-Men 3 The Last Stand and from 2006 and Spider-Man 3 from 2007. These, you see, that's the other thing I forgot to mention was a lot of these films are threequels in a way, which means, the first two were good, but then the third, it's always the third one that the series just drops off, I think by then the series just runs out of steam, I guess. Not always the case, but a lot of times. Hey, I said X-Men 3 from 2006, Spider-Man 3 from 2007. First two X-Men's, first two Spider-Man's were great movies. I actually thought X2 was actually better than X1. But X3 I thought it was too short. That was my biggest problem. I didn't absolutely hate it like a lot of people did. I thought it was disappointing. It didn't have enough action in it. It didn't have enough of a good story in it, and it was too short. It was only maybe I remember seeing on IMDb here. It was maybe 90 minutes. It's for Last Stand, that's just too short. I understand if you watch Days of Future Past that they do in a way. Let's minor spoiler here, so mute this if you don't want to hear it. It kind of undoes X3, which it's good, but X3 still was a disappointing way. It was just a very disappointing film. And Spider-Man 3 just first two were great. This one was it was way overcrowded with stories. Even they brought Venom in. Venom was way too short. He was only in for the last 20 minutes, I think. Yeah, complete waste of character. And the whole film I thought was really a little too slow in scenes. I'm man, this scene's going on a little too long. And I don't even think it had enough action. It didn't have enough action in it either. Even the scenes, a lot of people, I kind of agree, a lot of the critics hated the dancing scenes, which I thought was kind of silly too. Didn't really feel like it belonged at all. But yeah, and like I said, the biggest thing was everybody said was Venom was wasted in it. And not only that, it was I'm trying another thing. The only really good scene, a memorable scene that a lot of people praised was the Sandman sequence when he gets created, which I thought was probably one of the best scenes, only good scenes of the film. And yeah, the rest of it just really, a lot of it was just, it just had too much stuff going on in it. So that's that. Number 19, we have Kill Bill 2, Volume 2. Yeah, the first Kill Bill I thought was action-packed, great film by Tarantino. And it got me really hyped for part 2. But part 2, I was watching it and I was like, where's all the action? It didn't have nearly as much action as the first one did. It's you think part 1 was going to build to a huge finale. Part 2 didn't at all feel like a huge finale. Most of it, I'm trying to think of the word, what's the word? I forget the word. But it really, even the first one was very gory. It was very violent and gory. Part 2 was not really nowhere near as violent and gory. I'm not saying I I'm not saying I wanted to see. I'm not saying I wanted to see gore, but I would at least wanted to see more action, which I don't think it had nearly as much action. I mean, there were a few good sequences, but even the ending, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but it was very underwhelming in my opinion. I watched the ending and I was like, really? That's it? I mean, I kind of got what they were going for, but I just didn't get it, and I thought it wasn't really as good either. Okay, next one we have number 18, Exorcist 2: The Heretic. This was one of the films on the list. I didn't actually even see the whole thing. I just saw like bits and pieces of it, but it's not a good movie at all. I mean, the first Exorcist is like a horror classic. This one's not scary. It's nowhere near as suspenseful, and it's like an unintentional comedy. Like you're watching the movie and you're like, is it supposed to be scary or funny? The only good thing in it was pretty much it had James Earl Jones in it, which he's good in anything he's in, pretty much. But it's an utterly forgettable movie, completely forgettable, and just watch the first one. Don't avoid this film. I've seen part of part three. It's not that good either. Even the other prequel they made, the beginning, I've seen parts of it. It's just didn't appear to be very good from what I remember. Okay, moving on. Next one is number 17. Before I move on, I forgot to mention where the years came out in. Kill Bill 2 came out in 2004. Exorcist 2 came out in 1977. Number 17, we have Hostel Part 2. First Hostel, I wasn't really a fan of either. I thought it was kind of pointless. It was violent and gory, but it just wasn't good. Hostel 1, I don't even think was that good. Part 2 was way worse, though. I mean, it was kind of I don't even know if it was gorier, but at least, the first one, I don't know what it was. At least it kind of had a point to it. Kind of didn't, but this one really had utterly no point in it. I mean, it was just like a rehash of the first film almost. I'm watching it and I'm like, this is like the same thing almost. It's like this isn't introducing anything new. Even the ending of part 1, I thought was kind of an alright end. It was a satisfying ending. The ending of this part it was like, what? What just happened? You just like, there's endings when you're just like, that's it? Like, what? So that's that. I said that was 2007. Number 16 is Caddyshack 2 from 1988. First Caddyshack is a classic. I thought it was a lot of funny parts, good actors, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield, you can name them. Part 2 was just not funny one bit. I mean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn there was a scene when the gophers talk. I just thought that was stupid. And it only had Chevy Chase in it. Like, it didn't have Bill Murray or Rodney Dangerfield. Why even bother if you were only going to bring back one character with Chevy Chase? But he wasn't even in it very much. I don't know why. The first one was rated R. It was like, like a raunchy comedy. Number 2 was only rated PG. It's like, why would you want to water it down that much? If it was PG-13, I might have been okay with it, but you don't go from an R to PG in one movie. If you want to go down to PG-13, I really kind of don't have a problem with that, but not 2 ratings down. It just doesn't feel right. Number 15, we have Open Water 2 Adrift from 2006. First Open Water I thought was pretty good, which is, some people hated, some people liked. I thought it was pretty good and suspenseful. But second one, Adrift, it was not good one bit. I mean, I should have known better. I mean, I should have known better because it went straight to DVD, and that's like a telltale sign it's not going to be good. But I'm going to give away a little spoiler. This little thing I tell you is, how the first film had sharks in it? Well, I'm going to kind of give away a thing in part 2, which will make you probably not want to watch it. Part 2 has no sharks whatsoever. And I was just like, really? Like, the first one's based around sharks, which made it scary, but you don't bring back sharks? It's like, what? You know, why have no sharks? Made the first film good. And little brief spoiler, there's a scene when a character bleeds out. There's a scene when a character bleeds out in the water, but yet no sharks come. That like defies logic. It's like it's been proven that sharks can smell blood from miles away. I thought that was like it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. And the whole film, it's like the way it even happens is like a little ridiculous. But I'm not going to get into it too much. Number 14 is Son of the Mask from 2005. This was an unneeded sequel all round. I mean, the original Mask with Jim Carrey was one of my... It's like probably one of my favorite comedy films with him. But you knew it wasn't going to be good when it didn't have Jim Carrey in it. It had Jamie Kennedy, which he's pretty good, but nowhere near what Jim Carrey is. And I was watching... The film was utter garbage. I mean... Without Jim Carrey, the effects were not very good at all. The humor was not good. Not funny one bit. I laughed like maybe 2 scenes were kind of funny, I guess. And I was surprised how bad the effects were. I mean, 2005, it's not... Those are average, I guess, back then, the effects. But the effects in the original Mask, I thought, were okay, even. But yet this one had worse effects. It should have went straight to DVD, which it didn't. It flopped at the box office, no surprise there. But the story was not even that... I don't remember what the story was. I know it wasn't very good at all, but... Okay, next one we have Final Destination 4, or as they call it, The Final Destination, from 2009. Okay, now, the original Final Destinations, they were okay. I kind of liked them. The first one I thought was pretty good. The second one I thought was kind of good, too. Third one I even kind of enjoyed, although the third one I really actually kind of didn't care for. I thought it was okay, but I thought the ending was a little too abrupt. But this one was far worse than any of them combined. The effects were... They didn't even look like they were finished at all. Acting was... Originals, the acting was okay. The acting in this one was not good one bit. It was too short. It was only like, what, maybe 70 minutes? 70... I could be... Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know it was too short. Remember how I said the third film had too abrupt of an ending? The ending of this film is way too abrupt, too. Like, you're just watching it. Something happens, and then credits roll, you're like, no, this isn't the end, is it? You're like, oh my goodness, this is the end. And you're like, wow. The biggest thing was the effects. I mean, the first 3, the effects were okay, the effects were. This one, they put almost no effort in the effects whatsoever. Even the circumstances in this movie, like, the first 3 kind of had a little bit of suspension of disbelief moments, but this one, nothing. I mean, all the stuff that happens in it, nothing almost makes sense. I mean, the first 3 did things that kind of defied logic, but this one goes way over the top in defying logic, that it loses all credibility. And like I said, the first 3 did have questioning logic moments, but this one takes it way over the edge. But yeah. Even the Final Destination 5 one came after, it was okay too. It was kind of a good way to end the series. It doesn't look like they're going to do a 6th one. But I thought it was a decent way to end it, I guess. I mean, it was definitely... The effects were much better that time around. And I thought the acting was kind of better too. Okay, next one we have... Number 12, Austin Powers and Goldmember from 2002. I enjoyed Austin Powers 1, which was, I think, International Man of Mystery. Second one, Spy Who Shagged Me, I thought that was good, too. Goldmember just... I don't know, when I was watching it, I was like, this isn't funny, you know? It wasn't nowhere near as funny as the first 2. I mean, even the main character, Goldmember, he's forgettable completely. Even they introduced Michael Caine as Austin's father, which... He was good with what he had, but he didn't really bring much at all to the script, from what I remember. the humor wasn't nearly as funny, but this time around. I mean, yeah, it had crude, rude humor, but at least in the first two films, most of it landed, in my opinion. But this one, the humor completely fell flat almost 80% of the time. I did chuckle a couple times, but most of the jokes were kind of recycling from the first two. And it was like, come on. I guess, it was just forgettable completely. I guess by that point, you can only take a comedy thing. This applies a lot, so you can only take a comedy thing so far. Okay, next one. We have Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, also from 2002. Now, Hunchback of Notre Dame is one of my favorite animated films ever. I mean, it was an incredibly dark Disney film for its time. Incredibly dark. And good, though. It was good. This one, it was like one of those direct-to-DVD Disney sequels. Oh my goodness. It was so watered down that it didn't even feel like a sequel at all. I mean, the villain was nowhere near as evil as Judge Frollo was. And the animation was not good one bit. I mean, you can tell that it was cheaply and quickly done, probably. When the sequel has worse effects and animation, they just rushed it out. And it was too short. The film was only like an hour long. And it's like, really? An hour long? I don't know. Number 10, we have... And even the songs weren't that good either. First one had some good songs. This one's songs were forgettable. Completely forgettable. Number 10, we have Halloween 2 from 2009. This is the remake, the Rob Zombie one. Rob Zombie's first Halloween remake, I did kind of enjoy it. Some people did, some people didn't. It wasn't anywhere near as good as John Carpenter's original. Like, that's probably the best Halloween ever made. Jamie Lee Curtis. That was like a classic. I mean, Rob Zombie's Halloween was nowhere near as good as Carpenter's, but it was okay. It was entertaining. It was kind of scary. Fun watch, at least. But Halloween 2 was not really scary at all. I mean, even the acting, for original acting it was okay. This one's acting, I thought, was not good one bit. I mean, even they make the characters, the okay, likable ones from the first one were what was her name? Laurie and Dr. Loomis. And the Rob Zombie's original, they were pretty likable. This one, he made them completely unlikable, which I thought was like, why, And then the story was not good at all. I mean, having Michael see visions of his deceased mother, I thought that was completely ridiculous. I mean, I'm like, what is this, Friday the 13th all of a sudden? Yeah, I thought that was ridiculously stupid. And there's like a lot of dream sequences, and I'm like, really? Like, that's like a cop-out way of ending something. Even the way it ended, you're like, okay, really? Yeah, not good. And they were going to do Halloween 3, but I don't think that's going to happen, because this film was a disaster. What else do we have here? Number 9, we have Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines from 2003. First two Terminators are a classic, both directed by James Cameron. That's probably why. 3 just kind of went off the deep end. 3 wasn't directed by James Cameron, which explains why it wasn't very good. But the action was kind of weak. Arnold was okay in it. A few other characters were okay in it. I thought it was just a really disappointing step down from the first two. I thought the ending was everybody agreed the ending was probably the best part. I'm not going to go over what happens, but it's probably one of the only good parts of the movie is the ending. And then the other two came after. Salvation was okay. I haven't seen Genesis yet, and I heard that's not even very good either, but I heard they were going to continue off of that, but I think Paramount recently canceled it because of how disastrous it turned out. I'm going to have to watch it just to see. Okay, next one. Number 8 is Jason X from 2002. Now, the original Friday the 13th, they're okay movies. Jason X, though, like, completely jumped the shark. I mean, having Jason in space, like, what? You know? Future, you're like, okay, like, how did this happen? It just, the acting was atrociously bad. The effects were atrociously bad. I didn't even like the way it was filmed. You know, like those old TV shows, those sci-fi shows that are filmed a certain way. I can't explain it, but this is what it looks like. It looks like a sci-fi movie, which is ironic because I've seen it come on sci-fi a few times. I didn't like the way it was shot at all. I mean, even when they make Jason at the end, like the Super Jason is what I like to call him, he just doesn't look very... He looks okay, but nowhere... If they were going to change him, I didn't think they really... He was okay, but I didn't hate it as much as other people did, but I thought it could have looked better. If they were going to upgrade him, he should have looked much better than how he turned out. I thought, though, it was a decent way to end the series. If you see... Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. Number 7, we have Alien 3 from 1992 and Alien Resurrection from 1997. First Alien was great. Aliens, I thought, was even better. Probably because it's directed by James Cameron. First one was Ridley Scott. I'm not saying Ridley Scott's not a good director. I'm just saying James Cameron usually makes everything good. But Alien 3, I thought, was unneeded. It basically ruined... I think it ruined pretty... It just, like, completely ruined the first two films. I'm not going to give away anything, but the beginning made me mad because it's like, of all times to do it, you do it at the very beginning. You do something like that at the very beginning. And then the whole film was, I thought, boring. Very boring. And it like completely lowered the bar too. It's like Aliens had all those aliens in it. Alien 3 like brought back only like 1 or 2 aliens, and you're like, huh? And then Resurrection was the only reason it existed was because I'm not going to spoil anything here, but for one reason is how the third movie ends is the only reason they made Resurrection. I mean, Resurrection they only made just to kind of undo the ending of 3. But Resurrection, I mean, the acting was okay. Like, it had Ron Perlman, Winona Ryder. But story, I don't think, was that good. It was kind of a little too predictable in scenes. And effects, I didn't think were that good either. I mean, you can argue from 97, they didn't really have good effects, but... First three, I even thought had okay effects. The effects in this one, I didn't think were that good. But... that's all I'm going to say about that. I heard they're going to do maybe another Alien film, but we'll see when that'll happen. With Sigourney Weaver, which it might be good, but whatever. Next one is Alien vs. Predator. Speaking of Alien, next number 6 is Aliens vs. Predator Requiem from 2007. Aliens vs. Predator 1, I thought it wasn't that great, but I did kind of... I'm going to say this for a lot of these movies, like I've said, I did kind of enjoy the first one. Wasn't nearly as great as it should have been. I mean, people didn't like it was only PG-13 when it should have been a hard R. But I thought despite that, it was still a somewhat entertaining movie. This film, however, they thought making it a hard R would make it better, and it didn't at all. I mean, yes, it was more violent, more gory, but... I mean, I've been watching it on TV, on FX, and I was like, even, I guess you can argue maybe because I watched the censored TV version that they, I mean, I did finally watch when it was on, I think, Showtime, HBO, uncensored with the gore in it, and it wasn't good. I mean, yeah, it was gorier, but it wasn't overall a good movie. I mean, yeah, I watched the FX version, which it did censor out a few of the gory scenes, but even without a few of the gory scenes, it still wasn't very good. And it didn't the acting was not very good, was not good at all. I mean, the first one was acting I don't even think was that good. This one the acting in Requiem was way worse. I mean, wow, who did they hire? I mean, yeah, the acting was atrocious. Even the ending of this film tried to set up another movie, which it's been almost 10 years and we haven't gotten any sequel to it yet. So that'll tell you something right. That should probably tell you something right there. What else do we have here? Yeah, even in the first film, you couldn't. The lighting I thought wasn't very good, but this one the lighting was terrible. I mean, I couldn't see anything half the time. I had to like see my TV was on the wrong setting, and it wasn't. It was like, man, like how are you supposed to enjoy the film if you can't see anything? But okay, that'll be said enough about that one. Number five. Even the ending of that film didn't make any sense. It was like, what? Next film. Number five, I've Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions, both from 2003. Okay, first Matrix I did like a lot of people did. It was like a classic film. But the sequels, like everybody said, sequels just they were more confusing than anything. I mean, they tried to explain stuff, but it just fell flat. I mean, the first one had great action, a great story, great acting. The acting in the sequels was okay too, but stories didn't make any sense at all. It didn't make sense. And then it was like, Reloaded, I thought, didn't have a lot of great action either. Even the ending, everybody said was like, how much, like, what? Like, what sense does that make? I thought it was at least going to have a good resolution at the end of Revolutions. It didn't really have, no, it didn't have a it had a disappointing ending is what it had. I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending of Revolutions, you're like, that's it? That's how it ends? And you're like, this can't be it, right? I mean, it really feels like, it has a very empty feeling at the end. Which, even I'm not going to give away much, I thought the action scenes in Reloaded were better than this one. I mean, the action scenes in this one I thought were very weak. They were very weak. And even the big fight at the end Neo has, I think, it looked like a Dragon Ball Z fight almost. But not in a good way. I mean, it looked very cheaply done. It was boring. And it felt very unsatisfying. A very unsatisfying way to end the series. So, Revolutions, Matrix sequels, like everybody else said, were very disappointing. Number 4, we have Bride of Chucky from 1998 and its sequel, Seed of Chucky, from 2004. The first 3 Child Play movies I did enjoy. I thought they were pretty good. But then when they got to Bride of Chucky, I thought it was I'm watching it and I'm like, why did they have to make this? If it was trying to be funny, which at first